Hello and welcome to Author in Your Classroom. My name is Helen Mulley and I am extra excited about today's episode because not just one but two things about it have never, ever happened before in all the time we've been making the podcast. The first is that one of our guests has actually been on Author in Your Classroom before. He was in fact on episode 16, talking about how to daydream a poem. And he's an absolute legend in the world of children's books, so of course we're thrilled to have him visit us again. Welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Michael Rosen.
Thanks for having me, Helen.
Anytime, and I mean that quite literally. But that isn't all, because I said there were two firsts, didn't I? And the other one is that Michael isn't the only author in your classroom today. Yep, we've got two for the price of one, and Michael is joined by someone else who I am sure is familiar to many of you listening, because it's former teacher turned total rap hero and author, MC Grammar. Welcome to the podcast, MC.
Thank you for having me, Helen. Hello to the crew. Get ready. This is going to be an epic show. We're going to read, rap, and party. Yeah.
We definitely are. Now, the reason that we have both Michael and MC with us today is simple. They have written a book together. It's called Ridiculous Raps and Rhymes. It's absolutely brilliant and mad and wonderful, and we're going to talk about it a lot more later on. But before we do, Michael, MC, I think our listeners are going to want to know just how the two of you met and started working together. So who wants to start telling us that story?
Go, MC.
Thank you, Michael. Well, first of all, obviously, I grew up reading Michael's books. He is the man with the plan when it comes to writing, reading, celebrating amazing literature, poetry, rhyming, and you got to see him live as well. The guy's a legend. So there was that, just that little thing in the background. So I was super inspired by Michael's journey as an author and as a poet. And then when I became a teacher, after sharing many of his books, I started to write raps and rhymes and so on. So much so, obviously, I turned into this rapper guy called MC Grammar, who ended up at a very famous festival called Glastonbury. And just by chance, the GOAT was there too. He was on the stage, and then I started rapping. He was dancing to one of my raps, the Bear Hunt rap, which is actually his rap, technically, which then became my rap, which is still his rap. And then we had a chat after the rap. And we said, yo, man. When I said, yo, man, he said, hello. And I said, Mr. Rosen, would you like to write a book together? He didn't even have to think about it. He just said, yes. And the rest is history. He's now my best mate. We go everywhere together. He's an Arsenal fan as well, like me. So we're best buddies and we plan on writing some more books together. Ain't that right, Mike?
That is so right, MC. So right. Yeah, I was there. I was moving my hands to your rapping of We're Going on a Bear Hunt. And it was even captured by your dear wife. And I think it went up on various social media. And as a result, we became famous overnight.
Yeah, we went viral. We went viral like that meme, you know, the one that goes, nice.
We went viral like a spiral.
How does it go, that little thing there? That thing, what you
that
do?
Little thing goes a bit like this. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You definitely helped Michael break through, MC. I think that's fair to say. It was struggling on the edges until you rocketed him to real fame. I'm interested in knowing, Michael, and I think a lot of our listeners will be too, how into rap were you before you met MC?
Well, I was introduced to rap way back, almost before it was called rap. So like any songs and any kinds of poems and plays, anything that you think of, they start somewhere. So rap had to start somewhere. And it started a few decades ago with people working out how it goes, usually in clubs and so on, in between putting on records. And to start off with, one of the things they called it was hip-hop. There were other things as well that they called toasting and lyricking. And when it was hip-hop, some boys who lived next door to me, Jason, Otis and Junior, they came to me and said, would I write them a hip-hop rap? And I said, no, because it's not really my idiom. That means it's not really my voice. And they went, oh, go on, you know how to do rhymes and stuff. And I said, well, look, go on, play me something. And they played me a band called Run DMC doing a thing called Walk This Way. I can only remember the bit where it goes, walk this way. So it's not really very helpful. And so I sat down and I wrote a rap. I could hear that hip hop in those days was about toasters, these guys who put on the records, boasting about themselves. And so I thought, I'll write a boasty thing about me. You may think I'm happy, you may think I'm sad, you may think I'm crazy, you may think I'm mad, but hang on to your seats and listen right here. I'm going to tell you something that'll burn your ear with a hip hop hap. I'm giving you all the Michael Rosen rap. So that's what I wrote, and I wrote some more. And the guy said, it's not really what we had in mind, Mike. So it didn't really go down too well because I think they wanted me to write something about them. But I said, Otis, Jason Jr., you write it. You write something about yourselves, you see, because that's the thing about rap. You hear it and then you can say, I could do that. I could boast about me. I could make up stuff about how I run faster than a cheetah or I can fly higher than an eagle. And it doesn't matter if it's true. You just make it all boasty. And that's what I said to those boys all those years ago. And so since then, I listened to the different kinds of rap. I'm quite interested in one form of rap, which is called grime. And I think I like, there's a guy called Dave, isn't there? And there's another guy called The Weeknd and a woman called Cat Burns and another one called Loyal Kana. And I think they're great poets. I really do. I just think they're great, great poets. And so I admire them hugely. And actually, some of the time, I wish I could write like that. And I know I can't really. Apart from anything else, I haven't got a backing group. But MC is going to sort that out for me.
Yeah, man. Just quick one, Mike. There, I just noticed you left one rapper off your list there that you that you like.
Well, I was coming to that, so I gave you the little feed at the end. The point is, up until our great encounter at Glastonbury, MC, you were a famous voice in the distance,
Yes.
And then suddenly there we were, slapped together at Glasgow. I mean, we weren't on the main stage. I mean, I have to say that. Well, the reason why I'm saying it is that obviously we will be next year, just hanging it out there. And so, yeah, I remember thinking, wow, this MC guy, he knows what he's doing because he can take these children's books, The Gruffalo, my book, Bear Hunt, and other books, and he can just make them into something, it's not completely different. It sort of gives it like a twirl and a twist and a shape and a rhythm. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I wonder if I'll ever meet him. And I didn't. Oh, no, I did. Sorry. Yes, I did. I did. Thank goodness you remembered.
It is about voices, isn't it? You can take the same words on a page and you put them into different people's mouths and they become slightly different creatures. MC, is that why you started bringing rapping into your classroom when you were a teacher? Because I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that not many of our listeners have a teacher who regularly raps at them, with them, for them.
I mean, that was one of the reasons. We had some kids that said they didn't enjoy reading, and I would challenge them and say, why? And have you read lots of different types of books? And they'd say, well, like what? So have you read a comic? Have you read a graphic novel, a picture book, a history book, an encyclopedia? All of that stuff there is reading. So you just got to find the book that suits you and the stories that you resonate with and you can see yourself in. And obviously one way of reading a book is rapping a book. It's another dimension, but you can't be a good rapper if you're not a good reader. How are you going to build those worlds of rhymes without the words? So you got to be reading if you want to start rapping. And I just think that rap is just another way of showing how books have multiple dimensions. And that's why it's so important to read, because everyone has a different perspective, even of the same words in the same order. For example, you might read Harry Potter and then go and see the movie. Did you really perceive those characters to look like that? If they didn't, what did they look like in your mind, in my mind, in Michael's mind? And we're all going to have a different perception in the reading, but in the movie, we're given one perception, someone's idea. And that's why, for me, I would always encourage kids to read their way.
Yeah, and when MC says read, and then fill your mind and fill your ears and fill your mouth with all this stuff, you can go back to Shakespeare. I mean, who would think Shakespeare writing 400 years ago was a rapper? Well, listen to this. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire, burn and cauldron bubble, fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake, eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. So those are the witches in a play called Macbeth, and it's like a spell they're making as they sit round a cauldron. And Shakespeare has put that into what we call a 4-beat line. Cha-chum, 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 cha-chum. There's 4 beats. If you think of music, it's got a pulse, or you think of a drum. And there was Shakespeare. And some raps have different rhythms, but some raps are just like that. They have 4 beats. So you can find poems and you can find stories that have got 3 beats to the line, 4 beats, 5 beats to the line, and you can rap it. And MC has shown us that you can do that.
Mike, I think we need to do that with a beat and you rap in. Let me drop the beat and you can rap on top of that. How do you feel about that? To inspire the next gen to start rapping Shakespeare. Okay, here comes the beat. You ready?
Yeah. Double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, fillet of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake, eye of newt and tongue of dog, and so on. Yeah.
That is so cool. And that is definitely something that everyone can try who's listening.
Yes,
If just grab any book off the shelf.
Any book.
Someone volunteer, maybe the whole class could do the beat and then someone could read over the top or vice versa. Anyway, I think that would be a great...
And then they can make the music videos after. And then they can do cross-curricular stuff. So they can edit it using their laptops. And then they can perform it on stage for the drama and the performance and the music. They could play the beats live with their keyboards. And then they can sell tickets, do the budgeting for the maths. And then after that, persuasive letters to get people to visit and the tickets. The whole thing could be a massive curriculum project. Every kid's going to be smiling and shining at school. What'd you say, Mr. Michael Rosen? How'd you feel about that?
Don't forget the pictures. Just get drawing and roaring. Put those drawings up on PowerPoint, and really rock the joint with PowerPoint.
Points.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Okay. So now we've torn up the curriculum and rewritten everyone's planning for the next 3 terms or so, as is right and proper. Yes. I think it is time for us to find out a bit more about the book that the two of you have written together and a bit about what it was like doing that writing together. And to give us a taste of what the book is like, I'm going to ask you to read a little bit. So to make that happen, I'm going to pause recording just for a moment while you both find the right page and get yourself ready and do your vocal warm-up exercises and all those things I know you do before performing. There we go. We'll be back in just a little while with part 2 of today's Author in Your Classroom. Welcome back to Author in Your Classroom, or I should say Authors in Your Classroom, with our very special guests, Michael Rosen and MC Grammar. Now, Michael and MC, you're going to read from the book you've written together, but before you do, maybe one of you could just give our listeners a tiny bit of context, which is a word we use in every episode of Author in Your Classroom, so they know more or less where they are in the book when you start.
For sure. I'm going to jump in here. Well, first of all, the book is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of wild, Mike, isn't it? It's super wild. And that's the whole intention of it. We want you to have fun. We want you to be able to perform it. And it's a journey. This is definitely a journey of MC Grammar on a quest looking for the mic. Along the way, for some reason, Mike thinks he's the mic, but actually I'm referring to the mic. So as the story develops, Mike, M-I-K-E, comes and joins me on this journey to help me find the MIC. And we're going to read a little extract now where we're at the beach looking for the MIC. And then we stumble upon one of life's most beautiful sights. What is it, Michael?
Look, an ice cream van.
That's where the mic might be, man. Mine's a 99 with a chocolate flake with dribbles of strawberry squibbles. What are you having, mate?
I'm having chocolate chili.
In an ice cream? Don't be silly.
Yeah, and if I'm in a hurry, I'll have a scoop of curry.
Curry?
Yeah, with a poppadom on top and some mango chutney, extra hot.
Extra hot?
Yeah, I should be so lucky. And I hope he's got margarita.
Wait, ain't that a pizza?
No, it's an ice cream, geezer, and it's there in the freezer next to the chicken nugget, mashed up. Whoa, I love it.
What, on their own?
No, on a cone.
A cone?
Yeah, you muppet. Pickled eggs, chicken legs, and a lurking gherkin.
Are all these ice cream flavours, Michael?
Yeah, can't you see them working? Like mustard in the custard, I go crazy with the gravy, broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Now that's called flavour, baby.
Ugh.
Banana splits with little bits of onions in the mix, a Knickerbocker glory with ketchup and chips, a sundae on a Monday.
With a cherry on the top?
No, as a connoisseur, I much prefer...
What?
A smelly sock and some belly button fluff, earwax and some jam.
Jam, now you're talking, man. Sounds like a plan. But tell me, Mr. Rosen, is this one homemade, bro?
Yes, it is, Grammar, from in between my toes.
Oh, I've had enough of all this stuff. I think it's time we go.
OK, let's go.
So the next part obviously follows us on the next journey to find the mic. It wasn't at the ice cream van. And to find out, you know what you got to do? You've had the look. So go and read the book.
Oh, that was such a treat. I wish you didn't have to stop, but we do have a lot to talk about. And the first thing I wanted to ask about is this idea about being a poet and being a rapper. Are they really two different things? Have I got in front of me in this studio where we are recording this episode of the podcast, have I got a poet and a rapper in two separate boxes or not?
OK, I'll have a little speaky on this. So I think all rappers are poets, but not all poets are rappers. So what I mean by that is rap is poetry. It's got rhythm, repetition, and rhyme. That's what many poems, not all poems, that's what many poems have. So if you're a rapper, if you're a toaster, a lyricer, one of these people, then you're making up poems that have got those special names. And all kinds of poems got special names. You maybe know a name like limerick or ballad or maybe sonnet and things like that. So some poets, they don't write raps, they write those other forms, those other names of kinds of poems, yeah? So poetry can draw on all these different ways of writing, and rap can draw into it because you don't have to stick to just one shape in a rap. You know, as I say, you can have a 4-beat line, a 2-beat line, you can rhyme, do lots of rhymes all inside the line. That's what we call interior rhyme, if you like. So you've got lots and lots of shapes to play with. And as I did when we read that bit of Shakespeare, you know, you can go back in history and find things that are really like raps. So it's been around for a long time. And so, you know, these things overlap. It's best not to say rap is over there and making poems is in another place. They're really all in the same place.
I hear you. I'm interested that I'm still trying to pin this down a little bit because some of the other types of poetry that you mentioned, like a limerick, for example, or I don't know, a kenning or a sonnet, our listeners will probably have talked about those in the classroom, and their teacher will have given them a set of really quite strict rules about what makes a limerick and what makes a sonnet, and all the boxes it has to tick in order to be that kind of a poem. But it seems to me, and this is just something I'm feeling rather than I'm thinking, that we all know what a rap is. We know it when we hear it, or when we bump into it in the street, or when we come across it on the radio. But if we have to sit down and describe what it is, I think we might struggle. MC, what do you think?
It's an interesting point. I want to go back to what Mike has said, in that if we remove the rap from the music and we just took the words and threw them on a piece of paper, suddenly the context changes. And for me, that again looks like poetry. So I think the rap really comes from the person who delivers the poem.
Right.
Because then you get the style, right? So for example, Shakespeare right there sits on a page as a poem. In an old book, it would just look like a poem. But if I didn't tell you that was Shakespeare and I put it to a beat and started rapping it, suddenly people believe that's a rap. Where did you get that from? Well, that's Shakespeare. So actually, I think it's about the delivery. I think all rap is essentially poetry. And remember, poetry does not have to rhyme. It can be where it wants to be. It lives how it wants to live. That's why it's called a language art. And lots of countries call English as a subject in their school the language arts, because it is an art. It captures time. When you write it, it captures a piece of time, a feeling, an expression, and it can then go anywhere with you and always celebrate that moment in time. And art is about expression and feeling. It doesn't have a rule. It's what you're doing in that moment in time. Just blurt it out. So sometimes I write rhymes that don't even rhyme, if that makes sense. I start off and I'm like, this doesn't really work, but it sounds cool on the beat. And I think that is what poetry does. So most people think of rappers as rhymers, but actually a lot of them just speak how they feel in rhythm, and it still sounds cool. And it's about that delivery. It's about that flavor. And if you mean it, if it comes from a place of meaning, it has that authenticity and it feels right. It's believable.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking as well that it's quite a physical form of poetry? Yeah. Every time I'm sort of listening to rap or watching someone rap, they're moving their body, they're jiggling their limbs, they're hopping up and down. Is that something that happens naturally when you rap, or is it something that you try to do?
Yeah, again, I think it comes down to the meaning of the rap. You know, for me, music is always about mood. You write sad songs, sad raps. You write happy raps that make you move and bubble. You might have raps that are slow. Whatever it is, that's how you feel. So if I'm rapping, we're going on a bear hunt. I'm like, we can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no, we got to go through it, right? Then you cannot not bounce and bubble to that because we're doing actions. The other day we did a remix. Did you hear that, Mike? I did the remix with the Cristiano Ronaldo.
Oh, great.
No,
I missed that.
Yeah. We can't go over it. We can't go under it. Oh no, we've got to go sue it. See what I've done there? And they do the whole Ronaldo sue. So there, I've just, again, flipped that into something new. It's got a new delivery where the kids are not just going through it. They're spinning around, they're landing in the Ronaldo poem because that's my adaptation of the art.
Yeah.
And guess what? That now lives in a place and time. So I think it all comes down to the energy of the words. It's the power of the vessel. It's what you give them. It's the ammunition. If we're going to talk about, you know, a sad moment, like when I rap, Guess How Much I Love You, it's definitely more downbeat in a sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely more, I would say, an endearing rap. I'm aiming for a larger connection on a more loving level, if that makes sense, because it's about how much I love my child or a person or an animal. So there, the energy needs to shift and the tone changes in my voice. And I come down a register. I get more into this one. Yo, Michael, this is the voice I use to guess how much I love you. But this is the one I use when I'm rapping the bear hunt, Michael Rosen. Do you know what I mean? Like
yeah, definitely.
So what you got there, Helen, you see, is that poems can exist on a page and they have no expression in them till you lift them and you put them into your voice, which is fine. You can just read a poem on the page and just feel it and get it from the page. The moment you put it into a voice, then you've got all the things that MC was just saying there, because your voice is an instrument. It can go high, it can go low, it can go loud, it can go soft, it can go tender, it can go slow, you can do it slowly, it can go very, very quick. So it's like a musical instrument. Think whatever musical instrument you want, the piano, the recorder, even a triangle. You know, they've all got these qualities, up, down, loud, soft, fast, slow, and so on. So the human voice has got that, and as you say, the body as well. So the moment you lift it off the page, you then ask, how am I going to use the musical instrument? And MC's just told us lots of ways with rap that you can do that. And that's immediately becomes all part of what it is. What we call the meaning of the poem is the way you are doing it, the way you're performing it, the way you're saying it. And you can take just one line. I sometimes say to children, they sometimes say to me, what was the first poem you ever wrote? I can only remember one line from it, and it was when I was 11, and I wrote a poem about a train going into the station where I lived. And the only line I can remember from it is, and now the train is slowing down, which sounds like just about the most boring line of any poem. But if you say, what if you were really angry that the train is slowing down? Will you then say, and now the train is slowing down? And what if you're excited that the train is slowing down because you're getting to the station? And now the train is slowing down. So suddenly that very boring line, when it sits there on the page, means two completely different things. One when you're angry, another when you're excited. Or you could be very sad. And now the train is slowing down. You see? So you can do that, and that's all with the musical instrument of your voice. And so rap, just as MC shown us, you can do exactly the same with rap.
This is so exciting. I really hope that our listeners are starting to fizzle with ideas for their own words and their own voices and what they can take away and do with all of these things that we're talking about together. I have another thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's not something we've talked about in the podcast before. We've always talked about writing as essentially a solo activity. So you might talk about your ideas in the class, you might even share some ideas with a classmate for feedback, but then you go off and you sit in your attic room and you write by yourself. But you two wrote this book together. How does that work?
Well, the thing is, you can write entirely on your own. You can write in a whole class where maybe your teacher or someone else collects up lines from each person in the class, and you could have a little chorus. Some people look at the last page of We're Going on a Bear Hunt and say, what is the bear thinking? Now, if you put that in the voice of the bear and you pretend to be the bear and you say, I am sad, and then you might have a little chorus that goes, I'm a bear, I'm a bear. And you'd say, I wanted to make friends. I'm a bear, I'm a bear. I like paddling in the water. I'm a bear, I'm a bear. And so each of these lines can come from different people in the class. That way you can make up a poem or a rap from a whole class. Now, with me and MC working together, we basically sat side by side in my office. MC sat at the computer and we just threw ideas at each other. And so we'd say, oh, that could rhyme with this and this could rhyme with that. So if you go back to that poem we did about the ice cream van, you see, we thought, wouldn't it be great to have a contrast where one person is thinking of all the lovely juicy things like chocolate flakes with strawberry squiggles, and me, I'm the one thinking up of kind of curried ice cream. So suddenly our minds got going, and then we could each help each other think of things, you see. So, MC might have said, oh, yeah, well, what about mango chutney? Yeah, extra hot. Well, what rhymes with extra hot? Well, in a rap, you don't have to make it an exact rhyme. What about top? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with a poppadom on top and some mango chutney, extra hot. You see, and that kind of works because in rap, you can have similar sounds that aren't exactly the same. So you can make top and hot, which normally on the paper doesn't quite work, but in a rhyme it can, because technically what's happening, you've got the vowel, okay, which is oh, and then p and t, what we call plosives. They're those little explosive words, explosive letters and consonants we've got. So you can make top and hot rhyme, you see. So, that's the way we helped each other.
I think that one thing that our listeners are all going to want to know, because this all sounds lovely and collaborative and positive, but what happens if you disagreed with each other? Did you ever have a big old row about which word should come next? Did anyone ever storm out of the room in high dudgeon?
No, it was never
did we
like
have
that.
a dudgeon to get on? Four-wheel dudgeon? It was a pigeon. We didn't have a dudgeon, but there was a pigeon outside our room, outside, and the pigeon tried to kind of get on the act, because outside they go, and we had to tell it to go away. No, we didn't. Well, that's one of the things, you see. If you work in pairs, which many of the children can do, if you work with a friend, then you trust each other. And the advantage of that, or if you've got what Americans call a talk buddy in class, your talking partner, all right, then trust each other. And maybe you trust each other. Maybe you might not like an idea particularly, but you think, well, let's try it and see. Because always the thing about performing and making poems is you never know whether they're going to be great or not till you actually get out there and try it. So you say, well, I don't know whether that'll work or not, but my friend, he thinks that will work. So let's try that. And so what you have is give and take. That's what we call it. So you give a bit and you take a bit and you try things out and sometimes sit back and go, well, let's see what happens with that.
Is that how it felt for you, MC?
Yeah, I mean, it was also learning from each other. There was many things that I learned just sitting next to Mike. Like, I'll just give you an example. When I was reading that one there, with dribbles of strawberry squibbles, yeah, I remember thinking, why aren't we using the word squiggles? And then I think Mike said dribbles and squibbles like sound better. And I was like, what's a squibble? And he goes, well, it don't matter. I remember that. And then I was like, well, no, yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? We've just made up a word. And that's because this book is ridiculous. And I'm okay with it being ridiculous. And as soon as you let that happen, you realise that nothing is really right unless it feels right. And this felt right in that moment, so we wrote it down. And now it's in a book, and hopefully it's going to inspire some other kids to make up some silly, ridiculous raps and rhymes and write how they're feeling down. And if they've got a word that sounds like swibble, then write it down, because you never know, you might make up a new one. You know, it might be in a dictionary next year, all because of that moment in time of us trusting the feeling and the emotion in the writing. And that's what happened. We learned from each other. We challenged each other. I remember my favourite saying to Mike's was, I would say something thinking this, you know, the GOAT, the legend, was going to go, nah, mate, you can't have that. And he'd be like, yeah, bank that, write it down, bank that. He kept saying bank that. We'd just jot them down. We'd have this little document where we'd write these little one-off lines or these sentences or half sentences or even just words like squibbles, for example. Bank that. And all this, we banked all this information, which we then created this bank of information that we used in the book. And that was him just saying, look, if it comes to mind, just get it down. We might use it, we might not. And I think that all comes to real fruition in one of the poems in the library when there's a young child asking Mike about the library and different kind of books who's not into reading. And then Michael just delivers this wonderful poem about the joy of reading and books and how there's a place for all of us in all the books out there. They're ready to welcome you. You just got to, you know, enter the library or turn the page, whatever it is, to get lost in a new world. And yeah, banking it, man. Bank it, Mike. Bank it.
Yeah, bank it. One trick the children might quite like is if you have on a piece of paper, you write your poem down the middle of the page, or if it's on a screen, and every time you get an idea or a rhyme that maybe doesn't quite work, or a funny thing that doesn't quite work in the poem, but you think it might work somewhere else, then write it down at the side or on another piece of paper. So you've got a poem page, if you like, and then this bank thing, you've got this place where you're writing down the scraps and the ideas and the other thoughts, and then you can go over to it. It's like having a little resource or a reservoir, you know, of like ideas and thoughts that are there that you can then pick up. So if you thought, you know, pizza sort of nearly rhymes with margarita, but we are not on pizzas at the moment. We're on pickled mango or whatever. Then you write down your margarita pizza thing, because that sounds quite good. Margarita pizza's got a bit of rhythm to it. So you jot that down on the side of the page and think, well, we could use that maybe later in the poem. But if you don't, the chances are you'll forget about it. You see?
I love that. I'm going to bank that as well.
Yeah.
Everyone should bank that, because ideas, they pop like bubbles, don't they? And then they're gone in the moment. We could carry on all day with this, and I would like to, but I know that you are both busy people with places to go and raps to share and poems to create.
We're busy and dizzy. Helen.
And whizzy.
Yeah, and
so I won't keep you much longer. Before we finish, though, I do need to remind all the teachers listening that we produce special free resource packs to go with every episode of Author in Your Classroom, so that children can take what they've heard and use it to create amazing writing of their own. And how often do you get two such amazing writers as this in your classroom, offering advice straight from their heads into the heads of your pupils? So you can download the pack for this episode at plazoom.com, and all the details are in the episode notes. So I am going to pause the recording again so that everyone can make a note of that website address, plazoom.com, and then we'll come back for a couple more quick questions to round things off.
So let's hear the applause for the pause.
We're back, like homework after a holiday.
Yeah, ready for your resource pack? Because we're back.
Can I get a sample of that resource pack? I want to do some of this work, Mike, don't you?
Yeah. Give me an example of this sample.
Yeah, I like what you've done there.
As our guests have so rightly explained, welcome back to Author in Your Classroom with the wonderful Michael Rosen and the fabulous MC Grammar.
Could I just hold you up there?
Yes.
Because I'm changing my name. You call me Michael Rosen. Well, I think there's the problem with our names is they don't really tell us an awful lot about us. They tell us a lot about history, where the names come from, but they don't tell us about us. So the thing is, you see, wouldn't it be better, let's say your name is Helen and your favourite food is fish and chips. Well, you ought to be called Helen Fish and Chips. Do you see? That would be much better. Well, my favourite food is raisins. So obviously, it would be much better if I was called Michael Raisin. So from now on in the podcast, if you could call me Michael Raisin, please.
I love that. I'm going to bank that as well.
Michael Raisin, please.
Can I get a sample of that resource pack? I want to do some of this work, Mike, don't you?
Yeah. Give me an example of this sample.
I think that makes complete sense, and how very convenient that you won't even have to go to the expense of changing all those capital R's in all of your letterheads and typefaces and so on.
I still say as MR, like he's MC, I'm MR. Yeah.
I'd just like us to finish up a little bit by talking once again about reading, because I know that for a lot of our listeners, you say the word reading and they will get all excited and they will think about all the books that they love to get lost in and all the characters that they love to meet. But for a lot of our listeners, you say the word reading and they will close up like an oyster just slamming itself shut, because for them, reading isn't something that conjures up excitement and adventure and magical things. It conjures up something that they have to do in school that actually they might find quite tricky or tedious or just not interesting. But given that 2026 is the National Year of Reading, how can we make sure that everyone is included in that? How can we make sure that everyone has a positive experience of that?
MC, how did you get your class? You were teaching year sixes, weren't you? Did you get everybody interested in reading, do you think?
Well, there's multiple strategies that I had as a teacher. First of all, we had a great reading environment. So it was a lovely place to go and sit and read. You wanted to be there. For me, that was essential as an educator. I wanted to have a place where it was comfy to read, but you wanted to get lost in that place. So I always made sure my reading environments were great. You've also got to have the books available. Books that all kids feel seen in and heard in, you know? Books that represent them and include them. And that was super important to me. So we had a broad reading spine. We made sure that it had lots of books that were encouraging for the kids, exciting, based around their interests. And I'm not just talking about novels. Like we said, we had chapter books, newspapers, brochures, pamphlets, you name it, whatever they were into. If you were into the football the night before, you were an Arsenal fan, Tottenham fan, you could read that if you wanted to. We also had available spaces where they could sit in quiet. There was communal reading. There was play scripts so they could act them out. So there was the next steps of the reading were to bring the book alive even more. And I think above all, the kids saw me read and I read to them, because not all children are read to. And it's even if they are read to, kids like being read to because, number one, it's good modeling. You're showing them how to read, how to express a book, how to bring a book alive. And also, it's a wicked activity to do at the end of the day, to just bring us all together and to enjoy it. You've got shared reading. Kids can take a couple of pages. They can all join in. For me, it was just about making reading accessible, fun, exciting, and getting them to understand that these books are a form of entertainment. They're just as amazing as tablets and TVs because you can create the reality in your mind. So keep reading them and they're going to change your life. Big time. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo all that. And the thing is making that link between the printed word on the page or the screen is dead. It isn't anything. It's just a squiggle. Yeah? I mean,
not a squibble.
Yeah, it's not a squibble. It's a squiggle. It's a squiggle. I mean, you just test yourself. Find a script that you can't read because it's not in our letters. Maybe some of you can read Chinese writing, but maybe some of you can't. Maybe some of you can read, let's say, Gujarati writing, and some of you can't. So just experiment. Look at those and you realize what it's like, that this stuff that we put on the page, it is dead. So it's just there. It's what we call inanimate. In other words, not even as alive as an animal. It's inanimate. And then we have to find all these ways that MC has said to make it come alive. So read to each other, hear the teacher read, get your older brother, older sister, mum, dad, granny, granddad to read to you sometimes. Acting out is a fantastic way to make books come alive. You know, if you think of a Greek myth like, maybe you know it, when Theseus fights the Minotaur, you know, what a great thing to act out. You know, you're there in the maze in the depths of the island of Crete. And then this great big beast is coming along and how you're going to defeat it. And then you can do what we call freeze frame, where you go into like a photograph and you stand there like the photograph where Theseus is just about to kill the Minotaur. And you say, what are you thinking, guys? What are you thinking? What is the Minotaur thinking? Is the Minotaur finally scared because the Minotaur comes out and eats people, is finally face to face with Theseus? Is the Minotaur scared? What about Theseus? Is he scared, or is he thinking, no, I can do this, I can bust this, no problem? So you have a debate in your mind. So you argue about what characters are thinking in a story, in a folk story, in a fairy story, in a myth, wherever. So anything that gets those squiggles off the page into action, into thought into how we think and how we feel. That's what really matters.
That's brilliant. And amazingly, I'm looking at the clock and we're out of time. I don't quite know how that happens because I think we've only been talking for about 2 minutes, but the clock says otherwise. So I am going to have to bring this episode to a close. Michael Rosen, MC Grammar, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a total joy for me, and I know our listeners will have loved it too. Thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Helen the Melon.
That is one of my favourite foods.
Yes, Helen, we're going to tell them to keep reading and rapping, aren't we, Mike? And
rapping and rhyming.
Rhyming, ridiculously, of course.
Perfect. And talking of our listeners, thank you too for being here with us. Do get hold of a copy of Ridiculous Raps and Rhymes if you haven't got it already. It's so much fun and I don't think you could ever get tired of it. And teachers, remember to download the resources pack from plazoom.com. And I'll be back very soon with another author in your classroom. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.